I believe it's an issue we should be free to discuss.
Of course.
And we are now entering a moment when it is deemed criminal to bring it up.
That's right.
And that is a sign of the very fascism that the resistance has been warning Trump was going to bring down on us.
Elected officials have defined it as domestic terrorism.
That's right. It is now, we're now entering a new war on domestic terrorism, which means on people like us.
That's right.
And outlets like ours.
Now, Mark, you are saying that there are at least as many red flags indicating election fraud for this last election as there were in 2004 or 2000. As far as I can tell, you and I are the only people in this country who hold a PhD who hold that belief, at least publicly. Because when this happened, when the election happened, and I looked at the numbers just the first night, I think it was maybe the next day, and I started seeing the numbers out of Milwaukee in particular, there's just no way that Biden outperformed Obama in black districts in places like Milwaukee and Detroit and Philadelphia and Atlanta. But that was just the tip of the iceberg. So can we just, I mean, when I heard that you came out, listen, we got to get back to COVID, of course, but I want to do this first. This is more explosive in some ways. When I heard that you also were doubting this, I thought, well, he's completely dead. They're going to crush him. I mean, I'm out of the academy. I've been out for 2 years, but I have felt since election night, since I've started to say these things on Twitter, even among my libertarian friends who are skeptical about all these things, I've gotten nothing but side eyes. I can feel it. No one's sort of addressed me explicitly, directly, but they don't agree with me. They think it is silly, crazy, misled, that I am paranoid, that I have some irrational beef with the left that's causing me to see fraud where there is no fraud. But the evidence, and I can't stand Rudy Giuliani. Rudy Giuliani is the opposite of me politically. Donald Trump, I have, slightly more use for Donald Trump, but he's a mass murderer in my view. These people, Steve Bannon, I mean, nationalist populism again, I stand for open borders. I am anti-war. All this talk about family and the church that they get into is disgusting to me. But I think they're right on this. But most importantly, they have so much evidence, and that has not been heard in court yet.
Well, it hasn't been heard at all, which is why your friends, give you the hairy eyeball. I mean, nobody's heard it. It's been completely blacked out. I mean, the blackout on such information was pretty heavy 16 years ago.
Yeah.
But not like this. This is astonishing, but you've mentioned only one example. As you say, it's the tip of the iceberg. Biden, even with Kamala Harris next to him, could not have roused such a fervent black response because she's not popular with that constituency either. They know her history in California.
She was the first to lose in the primary. She was the first to drop out.
Right? Exactly. The least popular of the primary. But I mean, the two late night vote dumps in Wisconsin and Michigan, I think in one of them, Michigan, maybe every one of them was for Biden. And we're talking about six figures. That never happens.
Yeah, hundreds of thousands. Right.
Not one for Trump, not one for any of the other candidates.
Right.
In 2004, nobody would have hesitated to say, this is bizarre. This just doesn't happen. This is a warning sign. There's, I think, 2,000 affidavits from people noting gross irregularities by, election workers. There are at least, I think I've seen 3 different videos of election clerks busily filling out blank ballot forms. I mean, how much more evidence does one need? But there's a ton of other evidence.
Oh yeah.
Affidavits are admissible in court. I mean, they're sworn statements. Right. And we didn't have that many in 2004. Now, let me add that back then we had election hotlines where people could report irregularities at the polls. I don't think there were any this time. There were certainly fewer exit polls, and this was all enabled by the use of mail-in ballots, which I opposed from the beginning, just as I oppose early voting, because I think election day turnout is important. It has to be gaugeable. We have to be able to see how many people went out to vote.
Right.
If Election Day were a federal holiday, which is one of the reforms I've recommended publicly, it would require a constitutional amendment. Then that would obviate the problem of people having to miss work and eliminate the need for early voting. Every American should be able to vote on Election Day. Every American should be automatically registered to vote on their 18th birthday. Every single one. So that the Republicans' vote suppression tactics, the ID legislation, it would be impossible. These are things that could be done. At any rate, there's no impulse to do them when you dismiss all evidence of theft. You pretend that a victory is self-evident when it isn't, and wouldn't be even if there were less of such evidence of fraud, because so many most votes are counted electronically by private companies.
Right.
Like Dominion, like Smartmatic, and all of a sudden Dominion, is sort of being defended even by some election integrity activists. They so hate Trump, that they somehow think that it's their call who won the election. It's not their call.
Right.
It's the voters' call. So, if they voted for Trump, they voted for Trump, and you just got to suck it up. But, we're not allowed to have the conversation.